Maseches Bava Metzia Daf Mem Amud Beis. Yeah, we are towards the bottom of the page, the last paragraph before the Mishnah, and we're still learning about selling oil. It gets very oily. Okay. In honor of Hanukkah, we're learning about oil. Yeah. Tana. Here's a brisa. Okay. Echad alokeach. Tana. Says the brisa. Echad alokeach ve'echad mafkid. We're comparing a person who buys oil to the person who is the mafkid. Mafkid is a person who deposited his own oil by someone. Le pekotim. What's pekotim? So pekotim, Rashi says, is basically psolis agarinim matzofin al pnei shemen. Yeah, this is the refuse of the garinim, the pips, the whatever, the bits that float on top. So we have two types of residues in the shemen. We have in the bottom the sediments. We discussed them already, and we know it's Machlokas Rabbi Yehuda and Tanakama who absorbs the loss of the 1.5% of the sediments in the bottom. But in the top of the oil, apparently, there's, I think, a thinner layer or bits and pieces of pekotim. Pekotim are bits of the garinim, of the stones of the pits, whatever, the pips of the olives, and they somehow float on top. And the question is, who gets them? In other words, who's the one who's supposed to absorb the loss of a bit of percentage? Doesn't say how much. I believe it's less of that. Yeah. In other words, when I buy oil and I don't specify, am I gonna 100 liters of oil? Will I say I want it and I did not specify? Do I expect pure or do I expect it to be with the pekotim and impure? So here the Brisa says echad lokech ve'echad mafkid. Lokeach and mafkid, the buyer and the depositor, are the same regarding pekotim. Frag the Gemara, my lepekotim. What do you mean when you say that? Who is like who? What do you mean they're both the same? Do you mean to say that both of them supposed to expect to receive clear oil, or both of them are expected to receive unclear, impure oil with a pekotim? Is the standard pekotim or pekotim less? And right away, the Gemara is going to basically rule out one option very clearly. Ilema, if you're going to tell me, if you want to tell me that the lokech does not absorb the loss of the pekotim, meaning he can and should expect clear pekotim, less oil and clean and clear. Mafkid nami lo mekabel pekotim. The mafkid too, when he was mafkid, when he actually deposited his oil by the shomer, then he's supposed to receive it now clear. He brought it to the shomer with pekotim, and he's supposed to receive it also without pekotim. Both of them are supposed without pekotim. Mapitom, no way. The lay malay. Now, what's his name? The shomer can obviously tell the owner, Katach, my avid lu. What am I supposed to do with your pekotim? You gave it to me. You gave me the shemen with pekotim. I'm supposed to give it clear. Mapitom, mechetesi, right? Now it's mashma from the Rishonim that even if they got mixed up in the middle, it's still not the achrais of the shomer to give him a clear oil with no pekotim. Ella must be the other way. The comparison works just the other way around. Kiechi the mafkid mekabel pekotim, just like the mafkid who, let's say, deposited his oil with a bit of dirt on top. Of course, he's supposed to receive it with the dirt on top. You gave me something dirty, I'll give you back dirty. I'm not supposed to siphon it and clear it for you. So too, lokeach nami, the lokeach, the buyer also is compared, and mekabel pekotim. The lokeach is the one who is, and that's a chiddush, the lokeach is supposed to absorb the loss of the pekotim. The lokeach is the one who's supposed to mekabel, and the seller would tell him 100 log of oil is what I promised. That does include the pekotim, and you're not going to get the very, very clear oil. Now, we're not talking about the residues, about the sediments, the shmorim. The shmorim we already discussed as machloikes. The pekotim, the lokeach is not supposed to absorb. When I get the oil, I expect pure oil without thingies floating on the top. That's what we say so far. Scum, they call it? Scum, S-C-U-M, scum of earth.
S-C-U-M.
Scum of the earth. Okay. What a nice word. Scum of the earth. I didn't say it. It's Art Scroll. Yes, Art Scroll gets me excited every time in news. Great. Well, you're asking good question. Why? We're going to see why soon. Is that so? Is it true, really, what you're saying? The formula, the way you understand the comparison between lokeach and mafkid, you want to tell me that the lokeach, the buyer, is supposed to absorb the loss and receive the pkotim and green and bury it and have the impure oil? Is that so? Tanya, I'm going to show you a brayso that says otherwise. Says the brayso, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, the same Rabbi Yehuda that we saw before, is saying something else. Says Rabbi Yehuda, Loi omu shemen ochur ela lemoicher bilvad, which means shemen achur. Achur in Hebrew means murky, cloudy, murky, marred, murky. The murky oil is only going to the moicher, the seller. He's the one who's supposed to receive the loss of the murky oil. And murky means with the scum, with the pkotim. I don't like the word scum. I'm sticking to pkotim, okay? With the pkotim, okay? Sharei, because lokeach mikabel olav logo mechza shmorim beloy pkotim. There's your answer. Remember, let's join everything together now. If you remember from yesterday, I hope you remember what you learned yesterday, because I don't. Lokeach, the buyer, he receives, in other words, the lokeach, he's supposed to mekabel log umechza shmorim. Who's the one who's, according to Rabbi Yehuda, absorbing the loss of the shmorim? Who? Buyer, Lefi Rabbi Yehuda. So the buyer is going to tell the seller, excuse me, both residues, both scums, both unwanted stuff, I'm going to receive. There's a limit. You know, I'm on the ongoing fryer the entire life. I'm receiving the 1.5% of shmorim, and that's a heck of an amount. Plus the pkotim, I'm also going to receive. No way. The pkotim, I'm not getting. I'm not taking this. You know, no way. You know, there's a limit. Yeah, the pkotim, I'm going to leave by you. Oh, so what do you see? You see that the pkotim is something that the buyer is not supposed to receive. No, the buyer has the right to receive pkotim less oil. You're asking why? There's your answer. Because the buyer did already absorb the loss of what? Of the sediments. He's not getting it pure from sediments. So at least give it to me pure from pkotim. You know, I'm going to talk to my daddy. What's going on over here? Answer. So you're sorry to yourself. You're contradicting yourself. Because before you wanted to tell Shem the Brisa that he does receive the pkotim. Here we're saying he does receive the pkotim. Who's he? The buyer. Why? Lo kasha, answers the Gemara. Calm down. Don't scream. Lo kasha, all is well. Nothing is difficult. Depends when. Depends what. Depends when. Oh, one case is the yav lezuzi betishrei bekashokil minei benisan. Oh, very good. One case is when the buyer buys it in Tishrei. In Tishrei, yeah, during the Yanim Tovim, in the Yomim Tovim, that is when oil is cheap and it's normal and accepted to sell oil with the pkotim. Oil then is, yeah, in its matzav with the pkotim, oil goes cheaper, is not so fancy, not so diluted or purified, and that's the accepted thing. Now, the chiddush is like this. When you buy and you gave upfront payment in Tishrei, and you said, I'm buying it in Tishrei, but you said, keep it by you until Nisan, that, as far as I know, half a year. On Pesach, that's when I want to actually come to your storage house and take the oil from there. Okay, even though in Nisan, the oil is supposed to be purified, and it's accepted to sell purified oil in Nisan, because the actual sale was in Tishrei, we follow Tishrei standards, and even though the actual giving over was in Nisan, but you follow Tishrei standards, and it will include the pkotim and the shmorim. And yes, the buyer is a friar, not always right. I'm sorry to blow the bubble to my American friends. Customer is not always right. Yeah, in other words, the customer should get the shmorim and the pkotim if it's Tishrei. Chiddush is even Tishrei, and the actual sale was sort of prolonged, extended until Nisan. But the Maisa, the deal was done in Tishrei, so the lower standards of Tishrei still apply. And that's one brisa. What's the other brisa? Sorry, kashakal mina benisan kimida de Tishrei. Like the midah, like the standards, like the measurement of Tishrei. Oh, the other brisa. The benisan, the kashakal mina benisan kimida de Nisan. Toyota. Yeah, in other words, he gave him money in Nisan, and he actually accepted it on Nisan. Everything took place in Nisan. If everything takes place in Nisan, when the oil is supposed to be more expensive, and therefore, if I pay good price, I expect what? Better service. I expect better quality and expect it to be without scum. Don't behave like scum of the earth. Yeah. I wanted the oil to be nice and clean, at least from the Pkotim, and have the right to do that. And that's a brisa that says that he doesn't get it dirty, he gets it clean. Good? Are you happy? Peanut Gallery is happy? Are we friends again? Yeah. Commercial time. You again. Next Mishnah, Rabbosai. Next Mishnah is a very, 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 very crucial Mishnah in the entire concept of Shomrim. And before we start this Mishnah, I'm going to ask you a riddle. Then I'm going to give you some general information. Then we're going to read the Mishnah, summarize the Mishnah. Then we'll do the Gemara. And at some point, maybe we'll go to an interesting country bordering with China. Okay, maybe. Depends on how you behave. Question to all of you. When is there a case in which shomer, listen carefully, you're gonna get a trip to South Korea, yeah, a cruise to South Korea, whoever knows the answer. Let's say the person is shomer chinam. Shomer chinam has, what is the chayav on? The lowest standard is shomer chinam. The lowest obligation is only chayav on pshia. When is there a situation in which shomer chinam faced the total oinus? He was holding something in his hand. He was holding the owner's phone in his hand. Lightning came and struck him. Armed robber came. Complete onus, and he's still chayav. It's a case alluded to in the Torah, and we sort of mentioned it in passing a few times. It's complete oinus. You're cheating, by the way. I can see you looking in the Gemara, but that's fine. Yeah, cheating is allowed. Yeah, as long as it's in the Gemara. Yeah, I am a shomer chinam. I'm holding the phone's complete oinus, absolutely beyond my control, and still I am hayav. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This, yes, this new car was almost yours. No, nice try. No, it's not chilosa b'pshia. No, nice try. No, it's not chilosa b'pshia. Nice. Half a trip. You'll go halfway there. You'll end up in Iran. Okay. No. You're trying to say chilosa b'pshia, so to be honest, nice. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Nice, good. The answer is as follows. It says in the Bible, in Parshas Mishpatim, it says that one of the things the person, the shomer chinam, has to take oath and be nishba before he is exempting himself. Had you said it 2 seconds ago, you got a trip to. If the shomer was shole'ach yad, im l'sholach yodu b'melech Yisrael. This is the topic of today's sugi. If I was to write the title here in headline on the wall, it would be shlichus yad. Shlichus yad. The big question what shlichus yad means. Generally speaking, shlichus yad means, I'll give you one classical example. Let's say the shomer was looking after the chovis, there's a barrel of wine or oil, as we're going to see, and his yetzer hara got the better of him, and he decided that he wants to take some of the wine, pour some of the fancy Chardonnay in honor of Thanksgiving, and then the rest is going to put back. While he's picking up the chovis for the very wrong reason, absolutely controlled and, besotted by yetzer hara, at that moment where he's not acting like a shomer for the owner, he's acting against the owner, he's being shole'ach yad. Shole'ach yad means to extend your hand, to sort of stretch out your hand to the wrong place you're not supposed to, like your friend's wine, your friend's object. Then, if during that time oinus happened, you're absolutely chayav. Why? Either because you're gazlan. A gazlan, the thief, is always chayav b'oinsin. You picked it up. If you pick something up in order to steal it, you have a title of gazlan. As long as you have in mind to pour and drink it, right? And then, if anything happens, then you chayav gazlan chayav b'oinsin. We're going to see in the Gemara at least 3 different definitions, and every definition has machlokes rishonim. But generally speaking, one thing for sure: if you took the object to enjoy it one way or the other, take benefit, either to steal completely. I'm giving you 3 examples in the rishonim already. Either you wanted to completely steal the entire wine and then lie about it, to drink all of it, or you wanted to drink some of it, or you wanted to use it, you wanted to take the barrel in order to climb on it like a ladder. You're not stealing, because you're not a thief, but you are borrowing it without permission. And I don't know if the owner would allow you to do that. If any of those 3 you did, then during the time when you act as to speak very coarsely, ganev or shole'ach yad, during that time, if anything happens to it, anything happens, UFO came down from Shammai together with ET, and they hit it, boom, you are chayev, because at that moment you're not a regular shomer, you're against being a shomer. What happens if listening to nice Uncle Moshe tape about Yetzer Hatov and don't steal lo signov, and then you chozer b'tshuva and you quickly put back the barrel of wine and you do not take the wine and you regret it. You finished your bad boy period. Now you're back to being the good boy, you're back to being the shomer. Well, I would say at that moment, if anything happens after that, after your chozer b'teshuva, and you're back to being a shomer and you stopped stealing it or wanting to steal it, then you are not chayiv anymore and you're back to being a regular shomer. Possibly that's everything I say is big stories and mechlokim and unfortunately I'm just giving you the general outlook, and therefore there are no questions whatsoever until the end of the Mishnah. Thank you. And okay, that's basically the story. Once your gneva session is over, you're back to being okay, and then if it's struck by lightning, a second after that, after it's back in its place, the chovis, and you're back to your Musar Sefer, everything nice and good, and nobody knows, at that happy moment, then you are good, according to some people, and anything happens is already not your Christ. That is no questions, because what I said is so general, and opens so many doors to so many questions, I just gave you the general picture. So now, says the Mishnah. Let's read the Mishnah nice and slow. The Mishnah is a Reisha and a Seifa, like many of these Mishnahs tend to have. Let's go. A friend deposited a chovis by a friend. What's a chovis? I think it's a barrel. Yeah. A barrel, put some barrel by his friend. First, case number one, remember very well. In the first case, in the Reisha, the owner did not specify one place for the chovis. In other words, he did not tell the shomer, Mr. Shomer, please look after it in your northeast corner of your machsan. Put it wherever you want, in your shviger's bathroom, wherever you want to do it, put it wherever you want. Put it in the malkum wherever you want. It was not shoyel. He did not borrow one specific corner in order to store his chovis, his barrel. Vetiltala, bam, bam, bam. Now the shomer, what did he do? He started moving it around. I don't know for which reason. Then it broke by oines, broke unexpectedly, struck by lightning. I don't know, the neighbor's kid was playing baseball again. If it broke while it's still in his hand, then depends. If he moved the barrel for his own need of the shomer, that's kind of illegal. He's doing shlichus yad. Let's take the example that Rashi chose, and that is like one of the sheshes. Let's say he wants to use it like a letter, for his own need, for his own use. That's illegal. He's not supposed to be doing it. And in that very moment, caught red-handed, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was mesader that at that moment the barrel broke. Chayev is chayev ve'oinsin, as I just told you. That's called shlichus yad. And he's chayiv for the barrel, and cannot say, oh, well, it was beyond my control, beyond your control. But why did you bichlal touch it? Who asked you to bichlal? Yeah, I know it's not your fault. It would have happened anyways, maybe. But at that moment, you're a gazlan, or shole'ach yad is chayiv on anything. We don't give him reductions. The tzorka of the chovis, if it were its need, for her needs, the chovis is feminine in Hebrew, if it was for the needs of the chovis, let's say, says Rashi, the chovis was in a very dangerous corner and he moved it to a safer place. He moved it being a good boy, acting as the loyal shomer, potter. If then it happened that it was hit by lightning or by the baseball bat, then you're a potter, because what can you do? Fine. That is what the case in which what? It happened while still in your hand, red-handed. Let's say he now, again, placed it back to its original place, like a good boy, and already finished being a ganav, and he's back to being a good boy, a good shomer, nishbera, and that point it broke after he finished his geneva session, so to speak, or shlichus yad session, then it broke, then it's tzorka potur. Then even if he did it for himself, and he was a bad boy at the beginning, or kol sheken, if he did it for the chavis, his potur, because once over, it's over. We don't bear a grudge. Once you put it back, you're back to being a shomer. Of course, it's very, very not so simple, but that's what the Mishnah says. That's a Reisha. Seifa, second case. Seifa. Yichdula bailim mokoim. Second case is as follows. The bailim, when he asks you to be the shomer, shomer chinam, let's say, He said, I am now borrowing from you one specific corner in your house. That is that northeastern corner by the blue door in your maksan. Yeah, let's say he wants that corner specifically. And then exactly the same thing happened. The tiltala, the nishbara, he started playing around with it for the wrong reason, possibly. The nishbara, and it broke. Ben mitoch yodoi, uben mishenicha, he were being tougher with him. In this case, we're being stricter, and we say whether the onus breaking was while it's in his hand, or even after he already left it, and he's back to square one, back to being a good boy. Letzokoi chayev. If the reason he meddled with it, he played with it, and started moving it was for his own need, he was a shole'ach yad, he was a thief, and he was an illegal guy at that moment. Even after he placed it back in the place, he's still chayev. We don't know why. That's what the Mishnah says. For its own need of the chavis, he's always potter because he's never doing anything against the bailim. Let's summarize. Let's siphon from the Mishnah 3 cases only that we have to know. 1 and then 2 that are connected. Case number 1: if the bailim, the owner, did not designate one specific place, right? And you took the chavis for one of 3 reasons, none of them kosher. You wanted to steal the whole thing, half the thing, just use it, just schmooze it, just ta. You're not doing it for him. You are basically sort of embezzling here. And at the very moment while you were doing it, onus happened, it broke unexpectedly, you're chayiv. No question, right? Now, once you put it down, case number 2, once you put it down, let's say you put it down, let's say you had in mind to steal it, and then your yetzer hatov, Baruch Hashem, won over, you put it there, no, I'm not going to steal. At that moment, everything is good. Or even if you stole and drank some of it, but then you put it back, you won't steal anymore, and the bit that you drank, you're going to give back later. Once you're a good boy, you put it back, you're okay. And then if it's struck by lightning, onus is okay, you're back to being a shomer. Third case is what happens if the bailim was specific. That's a seifa. We don't know the logic of the seifa yet. That's going to be the big conundrum of the Gemara. If the bailim was specific and he said, I want it to be only in my embassy, in your house, in the northeast corner, in your machsan by the blue door, that's where I want it, nowhere else. And you played around, and then you put it back, even after you put it back, not over till the fat lady sings. And you still are chayev after it already is in the place. The question is why, of course. Yeah, you did tshuva, that's very nice. I'm sure Hashem is touched by your hot tears and your tshuva. That's nice. But Lamaisa, you're not called being back to being a shomer, you're still a ganav, and you're still chayav be'oinus. That is the Mishnah in short. So nice and easy. Says the Gemara. Okay, good. Just facts now. I'm almost sure that any questions you have will be answered. If not, I'm going to move to South Korea soon, and it's going to be so nice. Yeah, they'll learn tomorrow in South Korea, so let's go. Says the Gemara. Ha-money. What's ha-money? What's the money? Where is the money? Ha-money. Who is the author of the Mishnah? Ha-money. Manhi. Who is the author of our Mishnah? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel is the author of our Mishnah. Why? The Omar, Rabbi Shmuel says, Loi ba'inan das bailim. What on earth does that mean? Rabbi Shmuel says, once you steal something from someone and you brought it back to his own domain, to his house, to the cowshed, to the something, even though the bailim doesn't know that you returned it, but you physically returned it, remember above the comment at the end? Says Rabbi Shmuel, that's called hashava. A gazlan has a mitzvah. That's a nice trivia question to ask at home. Which mitzvah only applies to ganovim? Mitzvah for a woman, mitzvah for men, mitzvah for kohanim. Which mitzvah is only for ganovim? To return the gzela. Says Rabbi Shmuel, if you return the stolen object to someone's domain, to the korban's domain, to the victim, without telling him, that's good enough. That's called that you did a shavas gzela. You don't have to inform the owner. And that's exactly what's happening over here, right? In our Mishnah, it's not so simple. Because this person was a shomer, then he moved the hat of the shomer to the hat of a ganav. And he was a ganav for 5, 10, 15 minutes, right? Then he wants to be back to being a shomer again. But who appointed him to be a shomer again? right? The Baalim doesn't even know about it. He didn't tell the Baalim that he stole. He didn't confess in front of the Baalim. And yet, we say that the Gneva session is closed, case closed. You tie the loose ends, you're a good boy again. Who believes in that? Only Rabbi Shmuel. The Tanya, as we're going to see the Brisa in which Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Kiva argue, a goynev talem in a eder, a person who stole a sheep, a kid, a sheep, whatever, something, or goat from the herd, the selam in a kiss, or he stole a coin from the wallet, yeah, from the purse. The malkam shagonav yachzir viva Rabbi Shmuel. He should really give it back to the same place where he stole it from. What does that mean? Nobody has to be none the wiser. In other words, give the talent, the sheep, the goat back to the herd, put the money back in the purse, and even though you don't inform the owner that there was a loss and there was a return, you're okay. Rabbi Shmuel says all you need to do is what? One thing. You just have to physically return it, and you're mekayim, you fulfill the mitzvah of Eshev, and that's good enough. And which means what? Not only mekayim a mitzvah brownie in Shamayim, you also not chayv in oines anymore. That's our Mishnah. In other words, if I stole a sheep from the herd, thank you very much. If I stole a sheep from the flock and I put it back in the flock, the second after I placed it back in the flock, before the Baalim even realizes, and then he dies out of a heart attack, then he dies because a robber comes, I'm potter. Because my gazlan session, again, as long as the person is a ganav, then what? Then oines is his chiyuv, his chayv in anything that may happen. Once he placed it back in the place, runs away nicely, enough. It's in his possession, back in his domain. Then I'm not chayv as a ganav in own sin anymore. I'm not chayv to pay for anything that's unexpected out of my control. That's Rabbi Shmuel. It seems to be the author of at least the first part of our Mishnah. Rabbi Akiva says, Sarich das bailim. Rabbi Akiva says, Rabbi Akiva says, well, I wouldn't say that Rabbi Akiva says you have to own up to it like a man. Maybe that's the idea. Rabbi Akiva simply says that if he did not inform the bailim, that's not called returning. Chavrus and I had all kinds, fertile imagination kind of reasons why a person has to know that the thing was returned. Now you can think of many, many different reasons why it's important for the person to know that the item was returned to the herd or to the wallet or to the safe. He wants to know that it's back. Before you actually informed him that it's back, then it's not considered as a shovel. To just return it to the herd and then sneak out like a chicken without telling him that it was stolen and came back, that's not called returning according to Rabbi Akiva. So the first part of the Mishnah is very much like Rabbi Shmuel, right? What did the first part of the Mishnah say? The Baalim has no idea. You know what the Baalim is? Either St. Lucia or Acapulco or Solomon Islands. I don't know where he is. Now I'm in Ramat Bet Shemesh, and I'm playing around with his chovis behind his back. Then I put it back in place, and it didn't. I'm all back to square one, back to being a good boy. He has no idea that I placed it back, right? And therefore what? And therefore only according to Rabbi Shmuel, he's the one who says at the beginning of the Mishnah that it's considered like Megneva or Shlichut session is over, even though it did not inform the Baalim. So far, so good? Oh, Baruch Hashem. Frank the Gemara, okay. Rabbi Shmuel. Now, of course, the big question here is, who cares whether the owner designated a corner or didn't designate a corner? I returned it. Either you believe the Rabbi Shmuel, I don't have to inform the Baalim, or Rabbi Kiva, I do have to inform. What does the designation of places to do the price of cheese or the price of wine? Frank the Gemara, Rabbi Shmuel, if you follow Rabbi Shmuel, which is a Reisha, my area lo yichdu, why does the safe Reisha tell me davka lo yichdu, that the Baalim did not specify a spot, and anywhere in your house is good for me, the living room, the bathroom, the basement, anywhere, afilu yichdu nami, even if the Baalim was meyached, let's say the owner specified, I want the northwest corner by the blue door, and I returned it to the northwest blue corner door there, no, then good. Then according to Rabbi Shmuel, of course I'm potter. Why did the Mishnah say dafka if he did not specify a place? Why? Doesn't make sense. Says the Gemara, don't worry about it. The ratio is good. Lomi bai koma. It's coming to tell you Chiddush of needless to say. Lomi bai yichdoi de mikoimahu. Not Rabbi Shmuel is the one who believes that there was a good hashava. There was a good return. Says Rabbi Shmuel in the Reisha, hinting, not only if I returned it to the designated place, He designated next to the north and blue door, and I put it there. Of course, that's good hashava. That, of course, elafilu lo yichdu. Let's say the Bailim said, you place the chavis wherever you want. You can put it in the kitchen, you can put it in the Pesach kitchen, in the room of whoever you want. You can put it wherever you want. So then, the lav mekoimahu, let's say originally it was in the kitchen, and I, after misabusing it, I basically put it in the mirpeset in a different place, which is not exactly so mehudar. It's not the original place, right? He doesn't mind, but it's not the original place. Even then, lo bein das bailim. Even if I did not put it exactly the same spot, as long as the bailim doesn't care, Rashi calls it like an inferior, chazor gemura. It's not a chazor gemura, it's still called a good chazara. It's a good chazara. As long as I finished, chazor b'tshuva, not going to touch it anymore. I finished touching it. I'm a good boy, says Rabbi Shmuel, without informing, regardless to the exact location. That's the Reisha. That's the first part of the Mishnah, Mazel Tov. Ema Seifa, that's all very nice, so cool. Let's look now at the Seifa. Let's explore the Seifa. Yichdola Bailim Mokoim. In the Seifa, the Bailim did specify and designate one specific place, the green door in the eastern corner. Betiltala Venishbera. He started meddling and moving it around, not for the right reason, let's say, and it broke, boom, in an unexpected, unlucky moment. Ben mitoch yodoi, ben mishenicha opa. Either it happened while you were holding it red-handed, or even after you laid it back, you placed it back, even after you finished your gneva and you placed it in the original place, letzor kol chayiv. If the original movement was very unkosher, you did it for yourself, you chayiv even after you replaced it and placed it back. Letzor ko potur. Only if you did it really for the chavis, then you're potur. Also, Rabbi Akiva. Oh, now at least we have shot in the Seifa. You know, if you look locally only at the Seifa, we'll say, hey, now we know why he's still chayiv. You know why he's still chayiv? Because he did not yet call the Bailim in St. Lucia with tears in his voice and said, I stole it and I gave it back. Only after you give him the rigmarole, the whole story, only then, according to Rabbi Akiva, you are exempt from oines. As long as you didn't tell him, you're still not completely out of gneva mode. So the Seifa, if you only look at the Seifa, that's cool. That's Rabbi Akiva. Okay, nice. In other words, right, because you placed it back, but there was no information of the Bailim is still in the dark. That's why if it's struck by lightning or my neighbor's baseball bat or my neighbor's dog starts hitting it, then you're still chayav. Locally, that's a very good teretz. If you only look at the Seifa. Also, Rabbi Akiva, that follows Rabbi Akiva, the Omar that says, but in and das Bailim, we require the das Bailim, we require the knowledge of the owner to know what went on. Only then it's called Gud Hashova. Okay, that's very nice, but now comes a parallel question to the question we had before. Rabbi Akiva, if the Sefer follows Rabbi Akiva, which is nice, my nami. Same question, but the other way around. Then why do you say only if he designated the place? Even if he didn't designate the place, it's still the same thing, right? In other words, it's still lousy hashava. It's not hashava. Whether the place was or wasn't designated, machpatli. At the end of the day, Lefir Akiva, even if you return it to the very, very same place and not to the same, who cares? At the end of the day, hashava is not hashava until you actually make your confession. Yeah. Answers the Gemara, again the same answer. Lomi bai koma. The Mishnah is not being exclusive, but rather inclusive. The Mishnah wants to tell me even that case. Lomi bai lo yichdu de lav mekoimahu. Not only if the person took it from the kitchen, did some funny stuff, and then put it in the end of the second mirpeset far away, which is lo yichdu, not the same place. Then of course that's not good hashava because you didn't even return it to the same place. Ela filu yichdu nami de mekoimahu. Even if the Bailim specified the place and you were a good boy and you actually did place it back in the same place, says Rabbi Kiva, you may be a very nice guy and you have feeling of remorse and all very nice, but sorry, Ba'inan das Bailim, you still require das Bailim. As long as the Bailim is not informed, you could be very hackish and return it to the exactly same milliliter, meter. Yeah, so what? As long as there's no phone call, I'm sorry, mister, I stole and I put back, it's not hashava. And therefore, basically, good. So if you look at the Reisha, it's a very total Rabbi Shmuel Reisha, and the Seifa is total Rabbi Akiva, regardless of whether the Bailim informed or didn't inform. So this whole business of Bailim informing, not informing, is just to maximize the Chiddush on both sides. Rabbi Shmuel says it's always called Good Hashava, even if you put it somewhere else. Rabbi Akiva says it's always called a bad Hashava, not a Hashava, even if you placed it in the designated place. Oh, very nice. But the Machlekes is very big. Okay, so let's summarize. So wait a second. The Mishnah, each part of itself is nice, but is there chemistry between the two parts of the Mishnah? No. Frek the Gemara, wait. Reisha Rabbi Shmuel, the Sefer Rabbi Akiva. So the Reisha follows Rabbi Shmuel, and the Sefer follows Rabbi Akiva. Yes? Are we clear? The Reisha follows clearly the opinion of Rabbi Shmuel, that once you put it back, good boy, you're not chayav anymore on Oinsin, your gneva, shlichus yad, call it what you want, your bad session is over, and now it's hit by baseball bat, and by ET, and by UFO, all is good. And Sefer Rabbi Akiva says, no, honey, no, mister. As long as there's no clear information about what happened, that's not called Gula Shava, that's Rabbi Akiva. So that's chalk and cheese. You don't say apples and oranges, by the way. The real expression, my American friends, are chalk and cheese. Yeah, the chalk and cheese. In other words, the Reisha, how can the Mishnah, which we assume follows one homogeneous, consistent opinion, follows two different opinions? That's a question. Answers the Gemara, that's a classical answer. The Gemara says, what I would say in clear English, live with it. The Gemara says, yes, some Mishnayos are inconsistent. Part of the Mishnah follows one opinion, the other part follows the other opinion. I may not like it, tough. Some Mishnayos are phrased that way, and we don't like saying it, but many times that's one option that the Gemara presents, and the Gemara now goes even to greater length. The Omer Rabbi Yochanan is the advocate of this school of thought. Omer Rabbi Yochanan, man de metargem lichovis aliba dechad tana, whoever is going to, metargem here means to explain, whoever is going to interpret to me the chovis, the Mishnah of chovis, which you and I are now learning, whoever is going to interpret this Mishnah, aliba dechad tana, whoever is able to somehow twist it around and somehow explain to me that the entire Mishnah follows one opinion and not two, wow, I'll be so amazed. Well, he doesn't say he's going to give him a trip to Korea or $1 million or a new car. You know what I'm going to do to such a person who's able to explain the whole Mishnah as according to one of the two Tanoim? You know what I'd do to him? Movalna mani basrei. I would take his clothes, his garments, his clothes, basrei, after him, lebei masusa, to the mikveh, to the beis hamechatz. Basically, I would serve him like a slave. If I would see a Talmid Chacham that manages somehow to pull that trick and somehow logically explain to me how the Mishnah follows both Rabbi Kiva, follows one of the opinions, either Rabbi Kiva entirely or Rabbi Shmuel entirely, and will be able to merge the Mishnah nicely, wow, I don't believe such a thing exists. If such an Amoira would come to me, wow, I'd be slave, and I would take his godim, his clothes after him, to show my, to be subservient to him, to the Beit Masusa. Rabbi Yochanan is trying to say, I also like consistent Mishnayos. I also like them to be nice and clear and homogenic and consistent, but our Mishnah just is two broken pieces, and we must say that our Mishnah consists of is a fragmented Mishnah, partially Rabbi Shmuel, partially Rabbi Akiva. A little bit of freedom now, and then back to, Ellen wants. You gave up on me already? You okay? You can ask now.
According to Rabbi Akiva, it's more of a spirit.
Ellen is asking, why is Rabbi Akiva requiring this atonement business? Is it a spiritual atonement? No. I'll give you an example. Let's say I know that the stuff was stolen. In the original case of Rabbi Akiva, so let's say I had, my $5 million, diamond, whatever, I don't know if such thing exists, in my safe, one of those, and let's say the safe was broken, it was stolen. I now think that I don't have the what's his name, the diamond. So tonight, since I don't think that I have it anymore, I'm not going to lock my house in 5 different locks and 10 different codes and CCTV because I don't think that I have it. If the person surreptitiously puts it back, and I don't know, I'm still uncareful. I'll give you another example. The Gemara gives a good example about animals. If the animal was by the Ganev and got used to being off the derech, out of the Kent, now the animal is back on the derech, but the owner doesn't know that the animal was out. And the animal begins to behave crazy. It's like like with children, right? He had some trauma you don't know about. It's not funny at all. Yeah. In other words, yeah, there are very technical, down-to-earth reasons why a person that's a victim of theft should know that the theft is back. Sometimes he does know that there was theft, even worse. Sometimes he knows there was theft, but he doesn't know it's back. So he doesn't know how to. Maybe he's going to run today to the Gmach instead of going to Shir to borrow $5,000 because he doesn't know he has it back. When you stole something from a person, you stole the object and the knowledge. He's going crazy now to look for loans. He's going crazy he behaves differently. So it's a very technical thing, according to Rabbi Akiva, to let the person know it was stolen. It's not stam atoning with big tears. You have to ignore my picturesque, flowery examples, okay? It's just a technical thing. Rabbi Shmuel says no. Rabbi Shmuel says, listen, from the cold letter of the law, I returned it, Beishiv. It's his achrayus to know what's going on with it. We can discuss it for 10 hours, but that's basic, okay? You happier now? It's not just a spiritual thing. Oh.
Biggest thing would be like this. Why do I want to know that someone stole something?
Yaakov is asking a good question. Over here, it wasn't really theft. The whole time it was in the house of the shomer, right? The shomer changed hats. He picked it up. According to one time, as we're going to see later, he picked it in order to steal. Didn't do anything. He had kavanah to steal with a kinyan gneva, but then he said, no, I'm not going to do such a thing. Hashem watches me, and therefore I put it down back. So maybe it's not really called real theft because, I'll answer you very well. On one hand, you can say like you. On the other hand, you can say that this Ganev, more than any other Ganev, has to inform the Bailim. Why? And that's a punch for Rabbi Akiva. In this case, this guy, you tell me, if you have a shomer, you put your nice whatever you have, your nice computer by a shomer, and that shomer starts playing with the computer, looking in sensitive information, and then he puts it back. Is he automatically after that session back to being your shomer? Ooh, I wouldn't like him to be my shomer. So for him to regain the title and the crown of a shomer automatically, that's a huge chiddush. So it's true it's not real theft, but it's the worst theft. Because Lamaisa, he switched sides. Instead of working for me, he's working against me. So as long as he doesn't inform me and I renew his contract and I renew his being a shomer, Hadarabba, that's the person who has to inform me. Because who said I want him to be my shomer anymore? Let's continue. There's much more going. Where all this is to get to the unless it's very, very quick, really. Yeah. Yeah. Title. Absolutely mochel. Anyone wants to use my phone is welcome to, especially Baruch Rin. Weiter. Okay. However, now we're going to have three people who, three Amoraim are going to come now and will explain, they're all going to explain one way. This Gemara, by the way, is a very tricky Gemara. It's not tricky to understand. No, I'm not trying to deter you. No, I'm not trying to scare you. Rashi also acknowledges here the Gemara here, the order of the Gemara is backwards, is for a reason. So let me first tell you in English and spoon feed you the final answer coming soon. Yeah, you see, I'm spoon feeding you. And Rashi also spoon foods us and explains the follows. First, we're going to explain how the Mishnah is consistent. The Mishnah does follow one opinion of Rabbi Shmuel. And then we're going to explain all the details by the three people who gave that answer. I'll give you an easy answer how the Mishnah can be Rabbi Shmuel. Listen to this. Very, very, very easy. Very easy. The Reisha is Rabbi Shmuel, right? What happened in Reisha? The person did not specify. Here I'm reading from Mishnah. I'm the Ganav. I'm the shomer. I got me a Sahara. I wanted to drink that fancy wine. I don't like wine, by the way. Yeah. I took the fancy wine in order to drink. Yeah. Or I moved the chovis in order to climb the ladder. I moved it with bad intentions, and then nothing happened yet. I put it back in a different place, and my Yetzer Tov comes back and I said, no, I'm not going to do it, or I won't drink anymore. I'm out of the session. I did not inform anybody. I don't have to inform. I don't have to start viduim. I'm not a Christian to give vidui to the priest. No, Says Rabbi Shmuel, good boy, no problem. If it's now struck by lightning, you're good boy. That's classical Rabbi Shmuel. The question was the Seifa. How could the Seifa follow Rabbi Shmuel? Say the Amiroim, soon we're going to see. Easy, easy. The Seifa speaks about a person who what? Who specified a place. And he said, listen, Mr. Shomer Hinam, I want my hobbies only by the blue door next to the window in the very northeastern corner of your machsan. Okay, I took it from there, had a drink, thought to have a drink. We're going to see I did something bad. We're going to see later exactly what, used it, and then put it back where? In the mirpeset. Ooh, not where he originally told me to. That's why I'm chayav, because I did not put it back to the original place. And since in the Sefer is being very particular, he wants it only by the blue door at the end of the machsan, and I put it on the other side of the house. I'm being a bit exaggerating, yeah? And the very end, 15th mirpeset of his mansion in a different place, you did not put it back in his domain. He has an embassy inside your house. That blue door area, northeast corner, is like the American embassy in Yerushalayim. That belongs to America. Belongs to him. You did not put it back in his house. It's as if you put it back in the street. And therefore, that's why you have. Even if Rabbi Shmuel has his limits, it's not like you put it back, but you didn't inform. You didn't put it back. You put it back somewhere else. That's not called putting it back. It's putting somewhere else. That's the easy answer. Now we have the framework. Now what those Amoraim are going to explain to us is exactly what was the shlichus yad. We're going to see 3 levels here of how to define exactly what the person in the Mishnah did. And as an introduction, that's a huge machlokas here between Rashi, Ritva, Tosfos. I'm not going to get you messed up over here. I'm going to try to do it as clear as possible. Let me give an introduction. One classical case, which all Rishonim, I think all Rishonim agree. Listen to this. Oh, here is a bottle of wine. It's full. Yeah. Everybody agrees. What's the definition of shlichus yad? Which is not gneva. Listen carefully. It's not called stealing. It's called shlichus yad. Welcome to a new term called shlichus yad. When I'll give you gneva and then shlichus yad. If this bottle of wine belongs to Yitzchok, Yitzchok is going to America. He puts his bottle of wine by me. That was foolish of you. Yeah. And let's say I pick up the bottle of wine in order to steal the entire bottle of wine. And then I'm going to lie to Yitzchak and Beis Din, and I want to steal the entire thing. That's called theft in Old French. That's theft. Gneva. What about if it's no, that belongs to Yitzchak? See, you won't care. Okay, you want to be more hygienic? Okay. Yeah, like this. I won't drink straight from the bottle. I'll just take a few sips here and there. It's nice wine. Happy anniversary, happy Hanukkah. Yitzchak wouldn't mind such a nice guy. That, according to many Rishonim, is called shlichus yad. To not steal everything, but as a shomer, to take a little bit and then put back, that's called shlichus yad. It's every word I say is machlokesim, but some Rishonim definitely follow it like Tosfos, yeah? Oh, in our Mishnah, though, it doesn't sound like he poured anything to himself. He just moved it. That's the problem over here. So now, what exactly was the bad thing he did in the Mishnah? Since in the Mishnah it does not indicate that he actually took anything physical, was machzir, subtracted and took away from the owner. So what was the bad thing he did in the Mishnah that makes him chayiv? 3 opinions, very simple. It can be very simple. Tirgam Rabbi Yaakov bar Abba kamei de Rav. Rabbi Yaakov bar Abba explained the Mishnah in front of Rav. Shenot lo almanas legoizlo. Explains Rashi and some Rishonim. Enochinami. Our Mishnah is not talking about shole'ach yad. It's talking about a thief. Meaning, the guy picked up the entire chovis. He has big muscles. He picked up the entire chovis. He did a kinyan. What's a gba? Kinyan. In order to steal the entire barrel. He wants the entire barrel. He's a courageous guy. He goes for the gold. And then, he listened to the tape of Uncle Moshe, Yetzer Tov, puts it back. But during the time when he picked it up, he was a gazlan. So if it's struck by lightning as it's by his hand with vicious ideas of gneva, of course he's chayiv. That's called being a thief, mister. That's a gneva. And according to some Rishonim, that's not called shlichus yad. Okay? That's one option. Tirgam Rabbi Nosson, second option about the bad thing of the Mishnah, the sin of the Mishnah, is Rabbi Nosson bar Abba. Rabbi Nosson bar Abba explained the Mishnah kamei de Rav, also in front of Rav. Shenot lo almanas lishloch bo yad. He took it in order to be shole'ach yad. He picked it up in order to take some, in order to pour some, but he didn't. Yeah, his idea was not to steal the entire thing. He's not such a bad guy. Come on. half an eggnog, half a thing. Who cares? So such a shole'ach, obviously, is wrong. Yeah. If he's shole'ach yad, he picked up in order to drink a little bit of it, some of it, and return the rest. That's called shlichus yad. And the same thing, if it was be'oines broke while it's by his hand, chayev, after laid it back to rest, Rabbi Shmuel, potter. Okay. Now, by the way, I want to tell you something very cool. That's a ritva. Okay. The ritva says no. The ritva says whether you wanted to steal the entire thing or half a thing, or it doesn't make a difference. So what's the difference between gnev and shlichus yad? The Chavrus and I were like, we're like looking at the ritva like, we never saw this our entire lives. Melanie, but he's a Talmud Chacham. And listen to this. Ritva says gazlan means the idea was to take it and not pay. Shlichus yad means he wants to take the entire bottle or part of the bottle and later pay back. He's a nice guy. That's called shlichus yad. According to the Ritva, when the Torah in Parshas Mishpatim says shlichus yad means the guy wants to take it for himself, the fancy Chardonnay, and then he'll pay 10,000 shekels afterwards, even more, yeah? Or to take a few sips and pay 500 shekels for the wine. That's called shlichus yad. The question is, do you intend, while you pick it up for the wrong reason, you intend of paying, that's shlichus yad, or you intend not to pay, you're a better guy, that's a gazlan. Stop, that's a ritva on the side. It's just, I was like, we never knew that. Weiter. Frag the Gemara, but Lamaisa, the machlokes here is, did our friend in the Mishnah pick it up in order to steal the whole thing? And that's the bad thing, that's a gazlan, or did he pick it up in order to take some of it and then put it back? What's the argument between Rabbi Yaakov that says everything and Rabbi Nosson that says some of the thing? Shlichus yad tzricha chisoroin. There's a machlokes whether in the Torah, when the Torah tells the shlichus yad, does shlichus yad require chisoron? Chisoron means to take away, to a loss, right? To deduct, to mamish remove from there. Yes or no? When the Torah talks about shlichus yad, is it talking about wanting to take some or not wanting? Manda amar legoizla, the one who says legoizla, that our Mishnah talks about gazela, and according to Rashi, not shlichus yad. Kasava shlichus yad tzricha chisoron. Shlichus yad requires to want to take some from the item. If he did not want to take something from the item, but the item, that's not chisoron, that's not shlichus yad, that's gneva. It's a different category. Shlichus yad means to take some of the item. That's not shlichus yad. In our Mishnah, the guy picked up. He didn't take anything. The one who says lishloch bayad says no. Shlichus yad does not require chisoron, which means, let's say the person actually took it, because remember, in our Mishnah, he did not take anything at the end of the day. That you have to remember. In our Mishnah, picked it up. If you look at the CCTV camera on the side, you don't know what's in his mind. You see him picking it up with funny look and putting it back. What's in his mind? If you want to say shlichus yad, says the second man Omar, yes. If he intended of stealing a little bit and he did not steal a little bit, you regretted, that is also called shlichus yad. And at the time when you picked it, you chayv an oines. That's it. Even though he didn't take anything. Now let's go back to the first opinion. The first opinion, Rabbi Yaakov says no. If I had in mind to take a little bit and didn't take a little bit, that's nothing. Only if I had in mind to take the whole thing, that's a kanev, and then I put it back, that's called gneva. That's our argument. Now, third opinion, quick. We have to get the third one before the end of this year. Maskifler of Sheshes. Third opinion is of Sheshes, and he attacks both of them. Midi not loktani, tilta loktani. Rav Sheshes says, I don't like either of you. You're talking about a guy who's mamash a thief, half a thief, half a whole thief. You're talking about a guy who wants to take it. The Mishnah did not use the lashon notla, which means to pick up and take. It says tiltala. What's the tiltel? To move around. A guy who moves around doesn't sound like he wants to do koine. I'm buying it for myself without permission. Ella. Therefore, says Rav Sheshes, I don't like your pshat in the Mishnah that the guy was so bad. Rav Sheshes, you know what our friend in the Mishnah did? He picked up, not picked up even to be ganev. He doesn't want to take it. He's a nice, honest guy, which, excuse me, many nice people today would do, and it's wrong. He just wants to use it and borrow it without permission. He doesn't want to own it. He doesn't want to take one drop of wine. He wants to use it. He he wants to take the barrel and use it as a ladder to take some birds from a bird nest on top. In other words, he wants to use it, say the Rishonim, if you're using it for something that Baal may not approve of, maybe you're going to break it when you step on it. Chavias are not meant to be stepped on, excuse me. That person, continues the Gemara, because Sovar, Shol Shalomidas, Gazlan Havi. Whoa. Avshesha says, you may think you're a nice guy, but if you borrow from someone without permission, without his knowledge, you're a gazlan. And a gazlan is Chai B'Oinsin. If anything happened while you moved it around because you want to get to the top shelf of the sfarim or the chicken, you are Chai because you're tantamount to gazlan. Let's now get to the punchline. Everyone agrees that the entire Mishnah, what I told you before when I said I'm spoon feeding you, now the Gemara says it. Everyone agrees that the entire Mishnah follows one and only Rabbi Shmuel. How could that be what I told you? The Seifa, the second case, Shenicha b'makom she'eino b'mkoi mekoimo. The Seifa talks, you know when the Seifa is still chayiv? You know when the Seifa, even according to Shmuel, is chayiv? Because he did not put it back in the place. The Seifa is speaking about a bail, it was very particular. I only want you to look after it next to the blue door, under the fridge, under the thing, under the air condition, nowhere else. He used it whichever one of the three ways, either entirely to steal some of it, or use it, one of the three, and then put it back in the mirpeset. That's not called back. He didn't put it back, he put it somewhere else. Even Rabbi Shmuel, who's trying to be nice to you, has his limits, and then you're chayev to anything that happens over there. Back, beautifully, one more line. Why did Rabbi Yochanan, couldn't Rabbi Yochanan figure that out? Rabbi Yochanan is the one who said, our Mishnah is broken, is fragmented. Why couldn't Rabbi Yochanan figure out that it's all Rabbi Shmuel? Answers the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan, Henicha bimkoima mashma. Rabbi Yochanan says, no. The word Henicha, which is mentioned at the end of the Mishnah, sounds to me like he placed it in its place. And if he places it in its place, in the original place, he can't say it's Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel says, as long as you put it in its place without informing, you're okay. Who's the only one who says that if you put it back in its place and you are quiet, you're not yoitze? Rabbi Akiva is the one who says you're not yoitze. So it must be the same as Rabbi Akiva. So the Mishnah is fragmented. Rabbi Yochanan says, whoever's going to figure it out, I'll take his clothes for him to be a samecha. Whoa, guys, dance around. We did it. Baruch Hashem. You what?
Sued him
Of course.
in the color. He didn't took anything.